Hi, Connor. This is Lux, your librarian, and I figured it would just be easier to make a really quick video to show you where the databases are and what kind of stuff you can expect to find there for your paper. So I'm on the library's website, lib.utah.edu, and I'm going to go below this big search box here. That's for the library catalog. Instead, I'm going to go to the tab that says databases below. So this is the portal to all of our databases. I'm going to make this a little smaller. So um, typically there are three ways that you can explore the databases: by the title of the database, by the subject, or by the type. So for your research, I would look at gender studies, since that's our field that we're considering for this topic, or field of study, I should say. So up at the top here, we'll have a database that I recommended that's kind of a big, broad-based one that covers lots of topics, not just gender studies. But this might be a really great one to try out. So let's give it a shot. So we can actually select a bunch of different databases from within this one heading. But I'm going to just focus instead on Academic Search Ultimate. And we can look that up in the databases portal under A also. So we're interested in Gamergate and gender-based aggression. Pardon my typing. And we might have to change up some of these terms. In terms of like aggression, we might want to find some synonyms, but let's see how this goes. Okay, so our initial search didn't yield any results, but it does give us some suggestions. So nobody won in Gamergate, militant Menonism. This one might be potentially useful, I think. So I'm going to take a look at it and see what the abstract says. Okay. So it looks like they're talking about men's rights activists positioning themselves in opposition to feminism, and how the men's rights activism movement is connected to Gamergate. So that one might be potentially useful. I'm going to click over in this left-hand column here. I'm going to click View It, and ta-da! It opens another tab, and eventually that tab loads, and it will tell us where the full text is. So it looks like there's one database that has it, Sage Complete, and I'll click that, and this will take me to the full text of that article. As long as you're logged into campus information systems, if you're off campus, you can use that same login for the library's website. I'll show you how to do that in a sec. But if you're on campus, this will automatically be open to you. Otherwise, they'll have you log in advance. So there's one that's potentially useful. And let's see what we can do with this one. Are we able to download it? We are. Okay, so I'm going to download this PDF and I will send it to you. But in the meantime, let's go back to our database results that are giant for some reason. All right, so instead of gender-based aggression, I'm wondering if we could find some other terminology to capture that. But I feel like that's a really great way to capture it. So let's try this. Let's do something a little interesting. If we go to scholar.google.com, I'm going to show you how to sync up the stuff that we find through the library with the stuff that you have access to through Google Scholar. So I'm going to click on the settings here and go to library links. From here, you'll type in University of Utah. I've actually already done this, so it's saved, but I do want to show you what it will look like. So this will give you a list of all of the universities that have both Utah and the university in the title. And from there, you'll just click University of Utah, And then you'll hit save. And from there, we can type the same search. So I've just copied and pasted that from the previous database. And it looks like, ooh, violence might be another potential keyword. Online misogyny, these are great. So the results that we're finding in the body of this page come from Google Scholar. The ones off to the right, like this PDF here, a report on gender-based violence in video games, that link on the right side will come from the university libraries. So this looks like, I'm wondering if this is a dissertation, which is still a legitimate scholarly source of information. So I will, if it's not too large of a file, I will also send you that. Otherwise, you'll be able to find it with that link. So scrolling through here, let's do something a little different. So I'm using 3 different keywords this time around just to mix it up a little bit and see if we get some better results. So we've got Gamergate and gender and violence. Okay. Wow. So this database, not super great for our searches. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to close this tab. We're going to go back to the library's website, back to the databases page. And again, we're going to pull up gender studies. So let's scroll a little further. So beyond this top recommended database, you'll find a list of a bunch of other databases that in some way are connected to gender studies through the lens of history in this case, through the lens of psychology, through the lens of human rights. So there's a lot of different perspectives on gender studies that we can see just through this list. But once you scroll through it, you'll notice all the database titles are going to be in red, and below that, you'll see that there's a little bit of a blurb, and this will describe what you can expect to find in that database. So I'm scrolling toward one that I'm actually interested in. So this one might be potentially useful since it's covering stuff like the changing representations and lived experiences of gender roles and relations from the 19th century to the present. We've also got Gender Watch. This was the one I was headed to. So this is full text, international journals, and other publications that aren't scholarly necessarily. But this goes back to the 70s, and I think that might be an interesting, useful one. So because this is such a specific database, I'm wondering what would happen if we just put Gamergate in here. It's going to take a second to load. Okay. Interesting. Gaming equity. Let's see. Gender-based cyber violence. Interesting. So any of these might be up your alley if you look through the blurb and you're like, you know what, I think this will do it for me. So, oh wow, this is really interesting. It's getting difficult to be a straight white man. Bundled masculinity grievances on Reddit. I'm not seeing how this connects to Gamergate, but I'm hoping in the abstract it will tell us so. Maybe because it's connected to Reddit, it will have a bunch of subtopics gleaned from just forums and stuff. Okay. Let's try aggression, because I do think that's a great term. And from one database to the next, you might get very different results. Okay. Or some of the same results. Interesting. Here we go. Gamergate, violence in video games, rethinking the culture of misogyny. Let's see. So that one might be interesting. This is a full text database. So if we click on the title, it will take us to the HTML full text version. We can also get a PDF, and we can download that. Scrolling through this, let's see if this is a scholarly article. I'm going to go to the very end and see if there are, yep, we got some citations here. Perfect. So I'm going to download that. I'll send that to you as well. And this is really interesting. This is going to give us more sources that are potentially relevant. Sometimes they're really not. For example, I'm not sure what this one's like, but we could check it out. It looks like it's coming from the Washington Post, so that's going to be a popular source rather than scholarly, in case that's a guideline that you have from your professor. But otherwise, we can probably see like violent video games. Oh wow, this is fairly dated. But yeah, not relevant to your search. This one I'm curious about. Okay, so this looks kind of editorial, but maybe not. We could see who the author is and what her expertise is just by Googling her. Okay, so she is a reporter, an essayist, and a cultural commentator. Okay, so not a scholar necessarily, but could be potentially useful anyhow. Definitely something to check in with your professor about. But in the meantime, I do feel like a lot of these are going to be potentially useful sources. Let's see. And let's try the original search, gender-based aggression also. All right, so we're going to get some further stuff here. This is a good one, gender-based cyber violence. Good in the sense that it sounds like it's on topic and it's very recent. So I'm going to download the PDF of this one also and send it your way. But in the meantime, yeah, please feel free to explore Google Scholar. I like to keep a tab open there while I'm doing stuff in library databases. But otherwise, I think if you go through this list for gender studies databases, you're going to find some potentially helpful stuff in here that we haven't yet explored. Like even the American Psychological Association. So looking at gendered-based aggression through the lens of psychology might be very helpful. So things to consider there. Yeah, this might be a good place to stop. But if you have any questions in the meantime, please just let me know, and I'm happy to help.